What's going on, YouTube? We're here today. Figured the best time to start some impromptu videos would be when I'm not going to be able to stream over the holiday weekend, going to visit some family. So what we're going to do for this first video, we're going to go through team by team. I want to talk about each team's possible all-stars. Each team is guaranteed at least one all-star, and in terms of MLB The Show, that means there's going to be one Team Affinity all-star card per team. So I'm going to go through each team. I'm going to talk about guys, who's performing the best, who's a lock basically to make the all-star game, and then on some of the teams that aren't performing as well, who's going to be their participation all-star. So let's get into it. First with the Baltimore Orioles. The easiest one, and at this point I think he's basically a lock, would be Ryan O'Hearn. He is currently first place in DH voting because of Rafael Devers being traded to the National League. It defaulted him up. I can't even remember right now off the top of my head who's second in DH voting, but he is hitting 295 and 11 home runs, so I don't think it really matters who's second place anyway, because position-wise, I think he's the clear choice in the American League as the DH. A couple other ones, Jackson Holliday is currently second in second baseman voting, and he is hitting, where did I write that at? Can't remember. Oh, there we go. 258 with 10 home runs. By the way, this is all going to be one take. There's going to be no cuts, so we're just going to roll through it, and you're going to get all of the babbling and stumbling through this, and I hope you enjoy it, or maybe you laugh at me and make fun of me in the comments. I don't care. Go ahead. Surprising one for me when I was looking at this, I initially was thinking that Gunnar might get an invite back to the Home Run Derby. He did participate in the Home Run Derby a few years ago, and he hasn't really been making waves with his performance this year. And when I looked it up, surprisingly, he's still hitting 277 with 10 home runs. So totally would be justifiable to make him an all-star. He isn't anywhere near the top of the league in voting, so he's not going to start. He'd probably be, a league vote or a fill-in for somebody who opts out. The surprising one for me that I still do want to talk about, which is kind of disappointing, kind of the ebbs and flows of baseball, I suppose. Adley is hitting 227 with 8 home runs this year. I think hands down this has got to be the worst stretch of his career so far, even worse than his rookie season after he first debuted up until the All-Star break. Kind of stinks, but it is what it is. He just got a good card anyway, so, we don't really need him to get an all-star card. Another guy that's participated in the Home Run Derby in the past, so there's no telling, maybe he decides he's going to participate again. I believe he was even the first guy in baseball history to hit from both sides of the plate in a Home Run Derby. I don't remember for sure, but I think I remember that from when he participated. Moving on to the Boston Red Sox, Garrett Crochet, I think, is probably a lock for them. He has a 2.26 ERA and an 8-4 record, but he has been dominant. There's going to be a few guys that we talk about today that their record may not sound too outstanding, but a few of them, from the first time they took the mound this year, they've been dudes, absolute dudes, unstoppable, and just aren't getting enough run support. Alex Bregman had a really hot start to the year. Unfortunately, he's been out for a while with injury. I don't even remember if he's back yet, but he is currently hitting 295 with 11 home runs, which I think he's been out for the last month. So 11 home runs over two months of baseball. He's deserving. Now with the injury, I also don't know that even if he gets voted, that he'll go and participate. Aroldis Chapman has had a great year as well. Walking a lot less guys than he has the last few years of his career, I think, is the big standout for his performance this year. Otherwise, it's business as usual for him. He's got like a 1.32 ERA and 14 saves. Weiler Abreu, I think he's kind of a sneaky choice. He's a very platoon-heavy player, so I don't know that he performs well against lefties, and honestly, I think he gets, rest days sometimes against lefty starters. But he is hitting 256 with 16 home runs, and as of recording this, he became the first player in something ridiculous like 30 or 40 years to hit a grand slam and an inside-the-park home run in the same game. So maybe a little bit of extra hype behind that as well. And then my last pick, I don't think it's really likely because he's not performing that great, but he is the defending All-Star Game MVP. If you want to hang any importance on that, he did hit a home run that gave him the lead. That's why he got it last year. Jarren Duran is hitting 253 with 6 home runs. I mean, he's doing what he consistently does. He has kind of cold stretches, and then he has red-hot stretches. And I don't believe he's had a very red-hot stretch yet, so he's just kind of league average right now. New York Yankees, this is going to be a very long-winded one. The easiest one to talk about is Aaron Judge. He's already locked in because he got the most votes in the American League. And unless you're living under a rock, you realize he's the best hitter on the planet and one of the best hitters of all time, possibly. He's hitting .354 with 30 home runs and a 1.175 OPS. He is a literal created character in the real world. Carlos Rodon has had a very good year as well. He has a 2.95 ERA with an unfortunate record, honestly, for that ERA at 9.5. Like I said, there's going to be plenty of guys that we talk about today that unfortunately aren't getting the run support they deserve with the way they've been performing. He's had a very good resurging year. He was pretty bad last year for the Yankees after coming off a Cy Young campaign that he had in 22, I believe it was, with the Giants. Max Fried has been the best pitcher in baseball. I think he's honestly the easiest shoe-in for a starting pitcher in the All-Star game. He has the lowest ERA for qualified starters, I believe, at a 1.92 and a 10-2 record. So the Yankees are at least scoring 2 runs for him because he's got a great record. Goldschmidt, I believe, was first in voting for first base, and he may have fallen to second behind Vladdy going into the last phase of fan voting. I don't remember for sure. He's having a pretty good bounce-back year, honestly. He's hitting, 282. I almost said 285. Doing typical Goldie things. He's not hitting a ton of home runs. I think he has 8 home runs on the year. And then, I don't even necessarily really want to talk about it, but he's been hot lately. Jazz could possibly get a nod, a fill-in spot, who knows, because he's also a utility guy that they could throw anywhere late in the game. He's been hot the last week, but he's I say it all the time, if you're ever in stream and I bring him up or somebody brings him up, he's like a career 230 hitter, and he's hitting 244 on the year. So, I mean, he's doing exactly what you expect out of him. Sneaky pick would probably be Fernando Cruz to get a reliever nod. We'll talk about a few relievers as we go, but typically for the All-Star game, it's a bunch of starting pitchers, unless a guy's really standing out as a reliever. Drew Rasmussen for the Rays, I think, is maybe their most deserving. I don't know that he's the most likely. He has a 2.78 ERA and unfortunately has a 7.5 record, and they're having a pretty good season, so he's not getting as many wins for what a lower ERA would get him. I think Shane McClanahan's still hurt, if I remember correctly, so I was surprised to see this. Yandy, I was going to kind of just talk about him because Yandy is Yandy. He's typically not hitting for a lot of power and usually hits high 200s, low 300s. He's been criticized a lot in his career for being one of the largest human beings on the planet with like 0% body fat and not hitting for power. But he has actually hit 13 home runs this year and batting .291. And then Junior Caminero, rookie, maybe the odds-on favorite so far early in the year for AL Rookie of the Year. Has 21 home runs and is batting .258. So, I mean, he could get a nod. We're going to talk about way more guys than there are slots at the All-Star game. It's just kind of how it is, and you never know who decides they're going to go, who's not going to go. The chips are going to fall where they will. Vladdy is having another Vlad-type year. He's got 12 home runs and hitting .282. So, I mean, he's just consistent again after his hot year last year. I don't have him on the list, but Alejandro Kirk's been hot lately. If they need another catcher for late in the game and they don't have a lot that they select out of the American League, maybe he gets the nod. Otherwise, George Springer has had a pretty good resurgence year after a couple of bad years in a row in Toronto. He is There he is, hitting 263 with 11 home runs. And after being like the worst qualified outfielder in baseball last year or the year before, that's pretty nice to see because I think he's a pretty well liked guy around the league and like in the MLB the Show community as well. And then Bo Bichette has actually had pretty good start to the year after a abysmal second half last year. He's hitting 272 with 11 home runs, and that was the biggest critique of him last year was that he was hitting for no power in the second half. So he's had a good bounce back. Maybe he gets a nod. Shortstop is one of those positions that can be kind of thick in all-star games, though, so you never know. Our first team that's kind of a coin toss, the White Sox. The White Sox aren't as bad as they were last year. They do have some young, exciting players who are performing better than White Sox players have performed the last few years, I guess is the nice way to say that. I think my most likely vote would be Chase Meidroth, a rookie. He was red hot when he first came up, and he's still hitting 265 so far into the season. The other one, he's hitting for more power than anybody else on the team, would be Miguel Vargas. He has 10 home runs in the season, but he's only batting 229 after a really slow start to the year. And you probably are aware of his hot stretch if you keep up with the Spotlight programs because he got that card for the end of May. The last one with them I wanted to talk about in the potential All-Star, it's kind of just disappointing. Did the Chicago White Sox break Luis Robert? Because this man is a former All-Star, was viewed as one of the top outfielders in the American League a few years ago, talent-wise, and he is hitting 185 this year. Don't understand what happened there, but maybe, hopefully, it's just the situation he's in, and trying to anchor a lineup that's not very good has been a bit too much pressure on him. And so if he gets moved at the trade deadline to somebody else, maybe he starts performing better with some protection around him in a lineup. Who knows? Super easy one to talk about with starting the Cleveland Guardians off. Jose Ramirez is still on a red-hot tear that he ended last year on. He is batting .309 with 21 stolen bases and 13 home runs. I would really like to see him get to play all 162 of his games this year, Major League Baseball, so that he doesn't end with 40 stolen bases and 39 home runs, because I think he's the type of player that's very deserving to be in the category of the 40-40. Next up, Stephen Kwan. He's Mr. Consistent in left field. He's one of those guys that his cards are never going to wow you in MLB The Show, but he's going to hit around 300. He is currently hitting 295 with 6 home runs. So the problem with him always is that he's not very fast, he's a good defender, and he doesn't hit for any power. One of the most likely relievers, just because of popularity and general good performance over the last few years, would be Emmanuel Clase. He has a 3.28 ERA with 18 saves, and so he's been a little down this year after, honestly, probably because of getting touched up in the postseason last year, but he's still putting up pretty decent numbers for a reliever, so sneaky outlier pick. I don't have any of his stats, but Hunter Gaddis has been very consistent this year, and so, but I don't think namesake-wise that he's going to get a nod over a starting pitcher to come in late in the game. The Tigers, Tarik Skubal will be an all-star. With starting pitchers a lot, I haven't mentioned this yet, it will be very dependent on where their starts fall around the all-star break. And so, especially guys like Skubal or maybe Rasmussen, Max Fried, I guess would be a better example. An ace is not going to go out and throw an inning a lot of times in the all-star game for the shit of it, because, I mean, they can just as easily show up and sit in the dugout the whole time. Next up, Kerry Bonds. Kerry Carpenter, Kerry Bonds, as a lot of people like to refer to him in the MLB The Show community. Very platoon dependent. He is basically a blind man against left-handed pitching, but he has 16 home runs on the year and is batting .257, and I think he's hitting something ridiculous like .329 against right-handed pitching. Gleyber Torres is first place in voting for second base. not having a bad year by any means. He's hitting 284, so I mean his average is up a good bit from the last couple of years with the Yankees. I think he struggled a bit on base and batting average wise, but his power seems to be a bit down this year compared to what we've kind of come to expect with Glaber. He's only got 9 home runs going in to today. Riley Green, I believe, is third in outfield voting for the American League, and deservingly so. He is hitting 296 with 19 home runs on the year. He is maybe starting to put it together. I think he was the former number one minor league prospect in baseball at one point. I know he at least was the number one prospect for the Tigers at one point. And had a pretty decent start when he first came up in, I believe it was 22, and he's been very wishy-washy, very hot stretches, very, very cold stretches. They've ended up landing that he's not a center fielder, and he's going to play a corner outfield position, but it's nice to see him performing well. And then the big surprise of the year for just about everybody, if you watched any baseball the last few years, is Javi Baez has returned to like prime Javi Baez form. He's hitting 295 with 9 home runs, so his power's not wowing any, but Javi batting 295 and his chase rate being just about as low as it's ever been in his career, I think is very surprising to anybody that's seen highlights of him over the last few seasons ever since he ended up in Detroit. He was one of the worst qualified hitters and had the highest chase rate in baseball. Next with the Kansas City Royals, they've been kind of scuffling down the stretch, so Bobby Witt Jr. is obviously a name that everybody recognizes, and he's one of the best players in baseball, so I think it's a no-brainer that he's going to be an all-star. I believe he is second in shortstop voting at the start of the second phase, and he is hitting 284 with 11 home runs. His power's finally come around a little the last week or two. That was one of the downsides. His card was way better when the year started, and he went like the first month and a half with 1 or 2 home runs, and so his power numbers have decreased dramatically, but they've been on the rise. Chris Bubich had a very hot start to the year after winning a rotation spot and making his way out of the bullpen. Still carries a 2.25 ERA, but another guy on that list that we talked about multiple times already isn't getting enough run support. He has a 6-6 record with a 2.25 ERA. And like I said, the Royals have kind of scuffled. Next up, I would like to talk about Cole Reagans, but he's hurt, and he got touched up pretty bad the last few starts before he got hurt and hit the IL, so maybe he'll have a nice bounce back in the second half of the season, but won't be an all-star. Maikel Garcia, though, has had a very good year so far. He is batting... Where'd it go? I've completely lost it. Like I said, no cuts. We're doing it live. You get to see everything. I believe he's hitting like 285, and I believe this is his stat right here. 8 home runs on the season. Oh, no, there it is. 309 and 8 home runs so far on the season. So, with a scuffling Royals lineup this year, he's been a welcome addition. I would mention Jack Caglione, but I don't think he's been up for a week, maybe 2 at this point. I don't think it's likely that he's going to get the nod to be an all-star. Would be fun to see him maybe participate in the Home Run Derby, though. Small little outlier pick for possible Home Run Derby participant. And Lucas Erceg, he's a pretty popular name in the MLB The Show community, and he's a very solid reliever. I was really surprised to see that he only has 1 save on the season with not very many save opportunities, but he does have a 2.05 ERA over 31 innings, so that's pretty good with a decent load that he's been working. Byron Buxton was top 6 in outfield voting. I believe at one point he was much higher, and he's fallen kind of down after his 2-week IL stint, I believe he had. But Buxton's had a good resurgence year after a career riddled with injuries after his first year in the majors. He's hitting 281 with 19 home runs. I know he's somebody that everybody in MLB The Show community really likes to see. Danny Coulomb is one of the better relievers in baseball that you may have never heard of, unless you play MLB The Show and specifically played like BR or used his silver last year. He throws funky. He has a 0.81 ERA in 22 innings. He's not their closer, so he has like one save on the season, but a sub 1 ERA in 22 innings. Solid guy. And then Johan Duran, possible trade deadline move guy. Never know. It depends on if the Twins turn it around and start playing better baseball. But a 1.69 ERA with 12 saves. He's doing the same thing that he always does. Couple likely relievers to get the nod outside of starting pitchers like I mentioned earlier. The best closer in the American League this year, surprisingly, after how he performed the last couple of years, has been Josh Hader. So Josh Hader has a 1.67 ERA with 36 saves. Jeremy Pena, I would like to talk about him a little more, but unfortunately he just hit the IL for 30 days, so won't be an all-star. Wasn't high in the voting anyway. Hunter Brown probably is going to be an all-star. Definitely deserves to be. He has a 1.74 ERA. Guy that I believe he broke through in 22, and he's kind of been up and down, and I believe he won a rotation spot finally last year and got a whole bunch of starts under his belt, and it looks like he's put it together now. He's pitching very well. Yordan Alvarez, basically just by namesake, could possibly be an all-star. He's had a very down first half for his standards. We've come to expect him to be a 285 to 300 hitter and hit 30-plus home runs every year, and he's just not performing as well this year. Framber Valdez, I believe I wrote down some... I did not write down any stats on him. He's just been hot lately, so I may have just forgot to look up any stats on him. My bad. I was going to mention Jose Altuve. He's been kind of hot lately. I don't think hot enough to warrant being an all-star, and the reason I initially wrote his name down, he is 34 years old. His performance has taken a dip the last couple of years, so much so to the point that they were moving him to left field for some reason. Doesn't make much sense to me, but anyway. I was thinking that maybe his contract was going to be up soon. I knew he signed a pretty big extension after 18, 19, something like that. Don't really remember. But he's actually extended all the way through 2030, so I don't believe he's going to get a nod for the All-Star game just because he's getting older, because he's making money until the next decade. I love Mike Trout. I'm going to preface what I'm about to say that I love Mike Trout. I think he's one of the best players of this generation, but unfortunately, he looks like he's probably the Ken Griffey Jr. of this generation. One of the most amazing starts to a career that you could ever hope for, and then the last 4 or 5 years just absolutely riddled with injuries to the point that he barely has any quirks left in the game from being one of the best hitters of our generation. He's hitting .230 so far this year. He does have 9 home runs on the season. I don't believe I wrote that down. But unfortunately, he is striking out a lot. A lot more than we've come to expect out of Mike Trout. He has 67 strikeouts so far this year. And he also had a month-long IL stint. So 67 strikeouts in 2.5 months of baseball. It's a little high for somebody that's supposed to be a top-tier hitter like Mike Trout. The other option, I think, for them would be Zach Neto. He's put together a pretty consistent first half of the season so far this year. He is hitting .273 with 12 home runs, and he's a pretty solid defender as well, so I think as much as everybody loves Mike Trout, and he will get the nod over anybody else if they only get one All-Star, but I feel like Zach Neto, with his performance this year, would be more deserving of the All-Star spot. Let's start, instead of with the first guy, we'll talk about Jacob Wilson, who is first in shortstop voting in the American League. He's hitting .339 with 9 home runs and an .853 OPS, which is pretty good for a shortstop. And not playing terrible defense either, even though in the game his cards that he's gotten so far have not been good defensively. Pretty solid overall, I'd say. Not going to wow you, but not going to cost you. And if they only get one All-Star, it will be him. Because Mason Miller although he's a popular name and he's pretty well known now after the last couple seasons he's had for the A's, has a 4.7 ERA and only has, I believe, 11 saves in 27 appearances or something like that. I can't remember. Don't quote me exactly on that because I didn't write it down. Because the big thing for me was his ERA being double what we'd expect out of a top-tier closer like him. Maybe scouting reports are just getting better on him. He's been getting touched up a lot more lately, including that pretty popular walk-off home run that he gave up in Miami. But Jacob Wilson might be your starting shortstop in the American League. So, super easy. Cal Raleigh. He is... I lost my spot. Where are we at? Cal Raleigh is hitting .276 with 33 home runs. He passed Johnny Bench like a week ago for the most home runs before the All-Star break, and he is now like 4th on the list with home runs before the All-Star break. Something ridiculous like that. Tracking like 2 today, with only like Mark McGwire, Barry Bonds, and I want to say there was one other person as of June 30th that had hit more home runs before him. Unreal start to the year by him. Also participating in the Home Run Derby, so he's probably not getting the Team Affinity card. He will be more likely to get just his Home Run Derby card. And I haven't talked about that a whole lot yet. We don't have many participants that have been announced so far. It's just him and Ronald Acuna. But guys that will be participating in the Home Run Derby won't get the Team Affinity card for their team unless there's not another All-Star for their team. Then we'll end up getting like 2022 where Julio Rodriguez literally got 2 cards on back-to-back days. He got the Team Affinity card. Then he finished second in the Home Run Derby and got a big, juicy 98 overall. And I think the next likely All-Star for Seattle would probably be Brian Wu. He's been their best qualified starter with a 2.93. 7-4 record's not great, but chalk him up to the list of guys that's not getting enough run support, I suppose. J-Rod has been performing a little bit better over the last month. He's hitting 288, but he's hitting 244 on the season or something like that, and not hitting for very much power. So, name might carry him to an all-star selection, but performance wouldn't justify it. Jacob deGrom, I believe, is the most deserving. He's had a good bounce back from his back-to-back years missed because of arm surgeries. He's been pretty dominant his last few starts. He has a 2.08 ERA with an 8-2 record. The only other one, because they haven't been performing that great this year, would probably be Corey Seager, another one that's based off of name alone. He's not hitting very good right now. He's hitting like 230. He has been hitting for a decent amount of power when he's hitting, but he's having one of the stretches that we've come to expect from him where the batting average is down, the power's still there, the strikeouts are up. Just have to wait and see. The Braves, Ronald Acuna Jr. will be getting a card. He's the first person that was announced to participate in the Home Run Derby. For anybody that's new to the show, doesn't know how it works, everybody that participates in the Home Run Derby will get a diamond card. The 4 guys that get eliminated in the first round will be your base round cards. The 2 guys that get eliminated in the semifinals will be the mid round. And then the champion and the runner-up will be the rare round cards, and they'll probably be 99 for the champion, 98 would be my guess for the runner-up, since we're in the power creep. And then the mid-round could be anywhere from 95 to 97, depending on how generous they want to be. And then same with the base round card. It looks like our floor right now is 92 overalls for our Tops Now card. So fast forward a couple weeks, probably 93s, maybe 94s for the base round cards. I don't know that I could see them stretching them all the way up to 95s. But moving on, well, I guess we can talk about his stats a little, because he's not just participating in the Home Run Derby. He's been the best player in baseball since he came into the lineup this year. At the end of May, he made his debut after his season-ending knee injury, and he's been hitting 361 with 9 home runs in a month. So I do think he's deserving of being an all-star, but we'll just have to see how the fan vote goes. I believe he's third in the start of the second phase of voting, and the top 3 will be the starters. Next up is Chris Sale. Another guy that didn't have a great start to the year. He does have a 2.52 ERA on the season. Only allowed 3 earned runs in his last 5 games, so he has been pitching a lot better. We'll just have to see. Spencer Schwellenbach, maybe, if Chris Sale isn't off the IL and interested, and there's another slot that needs to be filled, and they're trying to fill it with some players from the host team, even though they haven't been playing that great. The All-Star game is in Atlanta, so it'd be nice to see a few guys on the roster. Spencer Schwellenbach has a 3.09 ERA on the season and has been striking out about 10 guys every single outing. Matt Olson, I can't remember exactly what it is, but he's leading first baseman in baseball in a lot of categories, and he wasn't very high in the All-Star voting. Not having an outstanding year by any means. He's hitting 252 with 15 home runs, but he's like first in defensive runs saved, first in, well, all those acronym stats, qualified first baseman in baseball. But otherwise, like I said, the Braves aren't playing very good this year, so those are the only few guys we got to talk about. I would have liked to have seen Drake Baldwin, but he's cooled way off in the month of June. He started off very hot, to the point where I was even writing him in as my catcher vote for the NL, because our default was Sean Murphy, and he was performing way better than Sean Murphy. But moving on, Braves bias aside, Otto Lopez has been hot lately. He's hitting 260 now on the year with 8 home runs, and going into the middle of June, I believe he was hitting 230 with 3 home runs, so a nice 30-point creep in the batting average and 5 home runs over the last few weeks. And he's really the only guy I could see for a bad team to qualify. They have been hot lately. I believe they've won 7 straight. But after an abysmal start, it's kind of hard. I mean, you could say maybe Sandy, because of being a former Cy Young, gets a nod. Lindor is first in shortstop voting for the National League. Having a pretty typical Lindor season. Hasn't really hit his hot stretch yet hitting. Still hitting for a little bit of power. I believe he has 12 home runs on the season. 12. I didn't write it down, of course. Nice. First in voting for shortstop, though, so he's going to probably be the starter at shortstop. Juan Soto is 6th in voting for outfielders. Having a pretty, I don't want to say disappointing, but same with him and Lindor. He hasn't really got hot yet. He's hitting 258. He does have 20 home runs on the year, so he's still hitting for power after all the criticism 5 games into the season that he hadn't hit a home run. Pete Alonso's been having one of the better years of his career so far. He's hitting 291, which is out of this world for Pete Alonso, with 18 home runs. And then finally, Clay Holmes has been their best pitcher. He's got an 8-4 record, but he has a sub-3 ERA at 2.97. Another one of those converted Yankee reliever to starter guys who's been very good after they left the Yankees. Zach Wheeler for the Phillies got an 8-3 record, looking like the Cy Young frontrunner. He's got a 2.27 ERA on the year. Just pencil him in every 5 days, and he's going to give up 2 earned runs or less. It's what you've come to expect out of him. Bryce Harper, kind of a question mark for me because he's been hurt for a while. He hasn't been performing to what we've come to expect for Harper. Maybe he was playing hurt for a little while before he hit the IL. But batting 256 on the season, his recognition of his name could carry him to the All-Star game. Who knows? Kyle Schwarber, could be surprising to say this out loud, but Kyle Schwarber hitting 250 is pretty good for him. We've come to expect him to be a low 200s hitter with a lot of strikeouts, and strikeouts are down this year. The batting average is up a little bit, and he's still got 25 home runs before the All-Star break. So what we've come to expect and a little more out of Kyle Schwarber deserves to be an All-Star. Just have to wait and see because he is a DH's DH. Slow and doesn't play in the field ever. And we'll get to who the DH is, but I think most people already know. Got to flip the page on my notes here. Mackenzie Gore has a 3.09 ERA, which is pretty solid. Unfortunately, has a 3-8 record because he plays in Washington and doesn't get a lot of run support. The other option for them wasn't even sniffing the top 6 for some reason in voting. James Wood has 22 home runs and is batting .283 on the season. For an offense that isn't scoring a lot of runs, he's driving in quite a few. He has 64 RBIs before the All-Star break. So either one of them, they unfortunately are likely to be one of those teams that get one All-Star because they're required to get one All-Star, and that will be it. PCA has had an amazing start to the year. I'll go on my little rant here. I'm going to summarize at the end who I think may be likely for collection rewards, just based off of how big of a player they are, and they don't give those cards out for free to certain guys. But PCA, with his defense and his speed, it's very hard for them to make a good PCA card, which we found out with the Easter program when he got his card. Kind of just middle of the road with terrible power against left and amazing bunting speed and defense. So I think PCA could be likely to be a collection reward. He is first, I believe, in outfield voting in the National League. And so far this year, he is hitting .262 with 21 home runs. And it's been pretty even across the board against righties and lefties. So we're kind of getting to the point where we need to get a non-platoon dependent PCA card. The only way to really do that would be to give him a 95, 97, 99 overall card that isn't platoon dependent. Next up, Mr. Consistent, Kyle Tucker, is having another Kyle Tucker year. He's hitting .291 with 17 home runs. Just Mr. Consistent. Don't know what else to call him. Seiya Suzuki has had a great season as well. Likely getting upgraded to Diamond in the next roster update. He's been hitting for quite a bit of power over this last roster update period. He's hitting .258 on the season with 22 home runs. Justin Steele's out for the year. Shota Imanaga's pitching a little better lately, but has been roughed up a lot this year. Dansby had a hot stretch, but has cooled way off after getting upgraded back to gold. Carson Kelly, I believe, is second in voting for catcher, but he's not likely going to get it, and may get a nod as a backup catcher, but we'll just have to kind of wait and see. He's having like the best year of his career, so it's cool to see that for him. For the Reds, another one of those that not having a great year, might only get one All-Star. Ellie would likely get a nod based off of his name and how much people in MLB The Show or in baseball in general love watching him, love using his cards. He is not having a bad year by any means, but he's not wowing anybody. He is hitting .279, which was a little higher than I was expecting because I think a couple weeks ago I looked and he was hitting like .252. So, also has 18 home runs on the year, lightning speed, steals bases. I remember he talked last year that he wouldn't rule out participating in the home run derby in the future, but for his rookie season, he wanted to just play in the All-Star game, soak that in, enjoy that, and so maybe he announces that he's going to participate in the home run derby. That would be cool, and it would fix the issue that one of these guys can go to the All-Star game and get a card, and Hunter Green is the more deserving of the two of them with a .272 ERA, and unfortunately only has a 4-3 record because the Reds give no run support. Milwaukee. What else can you say about Milwaukee? Rough stretches, hot stretches. I think their two most likely would be Jackson Chourio and Christian Yelich. Chourio has been the epitome of how their season has been. He's been hot and he's been cold. He's hitting .254 on the season with 13 home runs. And as soon as he gets hot and it looks like he's going to get upgraded, he gets cold again. And he has hung out at 83 overall all year. Christian Yelich has been more consistent, though. He's having another year kind of like last year before the injury that was leading into the All-Star break that ended his season. He is hitting 262 with 16 home runs. He's hitting 383 over the last 2 weeks and 337 over the last 30 days, and he's been hitting for some power, too. So, nice to see a little resurgence. If he keeps it up, a couple of the other guys turn it around. Bryce Terang and Sal Frelick are on-base merchants that don't hit for a lot of power, and so maybe they can put it together and make a little bit of a run. Just have to wait and see. Paul Skeens will be the only All-Star for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm totally kidding. We'll talk about a couple other guys, but Paul Skeens is going to be an All-Star. If they don't get anybody else, he's going to be their All-Star. I saw a tweet where it was, I never thought I'd feel sorry for the number 1 overall pick, future Hall of Famer, Cy Young winner who's dating a model, but here we are. And then it was Paul Skeens with like a glazed over look on his face with his hat pushed back in the dugout, and a 2.12 ERA that carries a 4-7 record because, dun dun dun, no run sport, like we've talked about quite a few times. O'Neal Cruz, he's a popular name. I don't think he's likely to get a nod. I did write down some stats for him just because reasons. He's hitting 212 on the year with 15 home runs. He doesn't hit left-handed pitching very well. He's not a very good defender. And then the other one would be Brian Reynolds. He's been better lately. He's hitting 375 over the last 2 weeks, but he's hitting 242 with 10 home runs on the year. So not real likely, but if there was to be another one, it'd probably be Brian Reynolds. He's another recognizable name who's been an All-Star multiple years before. So Sonny Gray has been solid. He had a rough stretch to start the year, through a couple starts, I believe. But he's got a 3.36 ERA with an 8-2 record. So, turned it around pretty good. Pitched amazing lately, so could get a nod. Mason Wynn's had a very good season. He's hitting 263 with 7 home runs. Great defensive shortstop as well. And so, to get 263 and 7 home runs out of a guy who's possible Gold Glove candidate that throws the ball 100 miles an hour, you'll take that all day, every day. Well above the Mendoza line. Brendan Donovan's been probably their best qualified hitter all year. He's another one of those guys that's going to be high 200s, low 300s, not hit for a lot of power. He has hit for a little more power this year. His OPS is 790, which is kind of high for him, but hitting 295 on the year. Nolan Arenado's gotten hot lately. He is hitting 286 over the last 30 days. So, and he has 10 home runs on the season. You never know. He's also a popular name. The only other one I think for them would be Ryan Helsley because he's a recognizable reliever. He does have a 3.41, so he's not terrible ERA-wise as far as relievers go. He does have 16 saves as well. So that's kind of a stretch, but one other guy to throw his name out there because he's been an all-star in the past. Ketel, easy shoe-in. He's first in all-star voting. He's hitting 300 on the dot with 17 home runs. And for a second baseman to have a 994 OPS is ridiculous. Any team in baseball in history would take that. A 994 OPS out of a second baseman. That's awesome. Not Ketel. We just talked about him. Corbin Carroll now. Had a very hot start to the year. He's cooled off a good bit. Still has 20 home runs. Hitting 255 now, though, after a cold stretch. And then Merrill Kelly has been their most consistent pitcher for the last 3 years. He's got a 3.49 ERA, 7-4 record. So if they get a pitcher, maybe him. I was going to maybe mention Brenton Doyle, because I believe he was an all-star for them last year. He got a lightning card last year. He burst his name into MLB The Show's consciousness last year, and he's hitting 187 on the year with a negative WAR from somebody we expect to play immaculate defense with his speed. Don't know what's going on there. So we're not going to be talking much else about him. He's having a terrible year, I guess. Unless you're a Rockies fan, you may not have known that because most people don't watch Rockies games for the fun of it. Ezekiel Tofar has been consistent, following up a Gold Glove year last year. Don't think he'd be likely to get their card unless he's their only guy, since he just got a Color Storm card. But he is hitting 258 with a 708 OPS for a guy that's a Gold Glover. Getting a 700 OPS, you'll take that. Hunter Goodman, unfortunately, another guy that just got a card who wouldn't get one unless he's their only All-Star, but he's probably been their best player this year. He is hitting 287 with 14 home runs as a catcher. Again, that's like the third guy in the last couple teams at positions where defense comes at more of a premium. You will take the offensive production that they are putting out. They don't need to be one of the best hitters in the league, but they are well above league average at their position. And on a terrible team, unfortunately. Jordan Beck's also been pretty good, though. He's hitting 260 on the year with 10 home runs. So, outlier, but maybe. You never know. Ohtani. I think he will be a 99 overall collection reward because this card has been the most expensive Live Series card that's ever existed. They raised the max price so that he could climb above 500,000. And if it hadn't have been for the vault packs coming out lately, he'd probably still be sitting at close to 700,000 stubs. He's having another great year. He's hitting 287 with 29 home runs. He's had his first, I guess you'd call them rehab starts. It got talked about a few weeks ago before the first one when I was watching a Sunday night baseball game. It's tough with him being your leadoff hitter and your DH. You can't have him go do rehab starts at AAA. So he's just been doing rehab starts at the major league level, and he goes out there and he's basically an opener and he throws one inning and he's done. And surprisingly, his last start threw the hardest pitch of his career, which is nice to see for somebody coming off of arm surgery. So velocity tick down is not going to be an issue, it seems, at least right now. Freddie Freeman's doing more Freddie Freeman things this year. He's hitting 312 with 10 home runs, 895 OPS. For some reason, Mookie was second in All-Star voting at shortstop, carrying a 249 batting average with 9 home runs. That's not what you expect out of Mookie Betts. So he was literally second in voting at shortstop, made it to the second phase of voting because of his name or the team he plays on, however you want to look at it, because the fan voting system is stupid and needs to change. Will Smith's been the best catcher in baseball, so you can't complain about him being first in voting for catchers. He's hitting 318 with 10 home runs and a 945 OPS. Yet again, a premium position for defense, and he's been one of the better hitters on his team. Yamamoto's got a 2.61 ERA, but I believe he's got like a 6-5 record or a 7-6 record. So, unfortunate record based off of a pretty good ERA, but I think starting pitching wise, he's there most likely to get the nod. And Shohei probably wouldn't pitch in the All-Star game. And then Teoscar Hernandez was second in All-Star voting. He's been hurt lately. He does have 14 home runs. He's hitting 259 on the season. So another one of those kind of like Mookie that I feel like he won the home run derby last year. He's on one of the biggest teams market-wise in baseball, and he was just getting overinflated in fan votes because of who he plays for and where he plays, I guess. Tatis had a super start to the year, has cooled way off. He's hitting 258 on the season with 15 home runs. In the last 30 days, he's hitting 242, and in the last 2 weeks, he's hitting 130. Wonder what happened 2 weeks ago. Feel like he got hit by a pitch or something. Anyways, moving on. Merrill Kelly, I don't think it's likely. He's an exciting young player, though, so I wanted to mention him. He's hitting 289 on the year. He doesn't hit for a lot of power. He's got 5 home runs on the year. He did spend about a month on the IL early in the year. Plays amazing defense for a converted shortstop that's a center fielder now. Manny Machado has had a good bounce-back year after a pretty poor year for him last year. based off his standards that we've come to expect in his career. He's hitting 293 with 13 home runs, so his power's even back a good bit this year. Michael King. We talked about converted Yankees relievers that are good starting pitchers. He's not had an amazing year by any means, but he has a 2.59 ERA, and unfortunately only has a 4-2 record to show for it. Their best pitcher this year, record-wise, has been Nick Pivetta. He's got a 3.36, but he's got an 8-2 record, so maybe. Robert Suarez is one of those guys that is one of the more popular relievers in baseball. Throws really hard, throws nasty stuff that moves a lot at 100 miles an hour. He does have a 3.89 ERA this year, which is a little higher than I think we've come to expect out of him, but they've had some rough stretches for the Padres in the first half of the year, so maybe that has to do. He does have 23 saves, though. So, lastly, last team that we're going to talk about, and then we'll circle around and talk about Home Run Derby content, collection rewards, and all that to summarize up the video. Logan Webb, doing same thing that Logan Webb does every year. He's got a sub-3 ERA at 2.61. Unfortunately, is there an echo in here? I feel like I keep repeating myself. He has a 7-6 record because he's not getting run support, even though he's been one of the better pitchers in baseball the last few years. It is what it is. Randy Rodriguez, I believe, has recently kind of moved into their late game setup closer slot. I don't know that he's closing, but you know what I mean, late in the game. Dude has a .74 ERA in 27 appearances and 36 innings pitched. That's ridiculous. So a deserving reliever for the All-Star game. Just have to wait and see how many starting pitchers, I guess, elect to go. Robbie Ray's had a great bounce back year. He's got an 8-3 record. Former Cy Young winner, likely to get the nod. Devers was first in the American League in DH voting until he got traded to the National League, and unfortunately was never going to catch Shohei Ohtani. So he's second in voting. I feel like he'd be a really likely candidate to get votes for third base, but the way they do the fan voting is he's only eligible in the position that he scratches into the lineup at, so it is what it is. And Heliot Ramos has had another good year. He's hitting 275 with 13 home runs. So he's a bit more of an outlier. Devers is more of a recognizable name, so he'd get a nod over Ramos, in my opinion. We'll circle back real quick and talk about possible collection reward guys. Like I touched on, everybody that participates in the Home Run Derby is going to get a card, and depending on their placement will be where they fall. And then it doesn't have as much of an impact on the team affinity cards that we're going to get or the collection, but there will be guys that get cards based off performances in the All-Star game, and it's just depending on, Jarren Duran hits a home run to give the American League the lead. Elias Diaz hits a home run late in the game to basically win it for the National League. A reliever comes in and strikes out 3 batters in a row to have a completely clean inning. It's kind of all up in the air for the All-Star game, and they decide to give cards to who they decide to give cards to, other than the MVP. The MVP is like a lock every single year. So, collection-wise, I think Judge is going to be a collection. They typically do this with the biggest names that are all-stars, and especially when they have the most expensive live series cards in the game. So I believe Judge is going to be a collection, like I stated. I think PCA is going to be a collection. And then Ohtani, I think, is the other most likely collection guy. I was leaning pretty heavily towards thinking that Cal Raleigh could have been a collection with how he's performed to start this year. And then with him announcing that he was going to participate in the Home Run Derby, I believe that completely nixes it, because then you run into the risk of him possibly getting 3 cards. If you give him a collection card, and then he gets a base round card or higher for the Home Run Derby, and then say all of a sudden he hits a home run in the 8th inning to give the American League the lead and win the game, then he's the MVP of the All-Star game, and you've got 3 Cal Raleigh cards 3 days apart from each other. So I think there's no chance now that he's going to get a collection card. Another one would be Trout, if they decided to juice a Trout card up, if they have multiple All-Stars from the Angels, which I don't think is likely. There's typically a pitcher in there as well. I don't have an inkling where I would lean towards a pitcher collection card. Maybe Max Fried, since he's been the best pitcher in baseball this year. He's not really the type of name that in MLB The Show that people would be too ecstatic about him being a 99 collection reward pitcher. He does have an interesting pitch mix. I've always liked pitching with his cards in the past. Fully admit to the Braves' bias of that, but he throws a curveball that's got a ton of movement and it's way slower than his fastball. He does have four-seam sinker, so I mean he's not terrible to use. And his cards are kind of hit and miss sometimes. He has some that are amazing. He has some that kind of let you down. Otherwise, I don't really know who pitcher-wise would be a good collection guy. Maybe a Josh Hader. We did just get one in the multiplayer program, but he's been the best closer in baseball. So if they give him like a 90, like it'd probably be like a tier 1 collection card. It'd be like a 95, which, like I said, he just got a 91, 92 overall in the multiplayer program. So that wouldn't be that big of an increase. It almost feels like that would be a wasted slot for a collection card. Maybe a second DeGrom. Again, you get into the weeds and dragging through the mud of trying to figure out SDS's reasoning for crap, and you're just going to go in circles. He got a 90 overall at Easter. That was a collection reward. If they give him a collection card, it's got to be enough of an increase, but he might also be their only all-star, so who really knows? Nobody knows what Ramon's thinking. Chris Sale got a collection card last year in our all-star collection, but he may not be an all-star because of the injury or, slow start to the year. Zach Wheeler, I think, would probably be my other starting pitcher vote. He's a popular name. He gets good cards every year at some point. Like I said, he's leading the Cy Young, in my opinion, for the National League so far this year. I believe he finished second, so that may be my number one choice for a pitcher that we'd get a collection card of would be Zach Wheeler. Hunter Green, I don't see that. Skeens, I mean, you got to throw Skeens' name in there. He did just get the takeover card. So other than him being like the only all-star for the Pirates, I really don't think we're getting another Paul Skeens card. But you never know. He goes out there and starts the all-star game and throws an immaculate inning in the first inning, and they give him a 99 rare round card because they decide to. Who knows? Who knows what SDS thinks and why they do it? I just don't really see a lot. The one thing I will say with Shohei starting his rehab starts for the Dodgers, I do believe that his collection 99 will be a two-way card. And so maybe that's the pitcher that we get in the collection, is it's going to be a two-way Shohei again finally. And boy, is life going to be miserable with a 99 pitching Shohei again. It's been nice the last couple years to only have to worry about his live series pitching, and then otherwise his big beefy cards have just been hitting cards, like the 50-50 card, or any other card he's gotten in the last 2 years, but he's back. Get ready to face Shohei 3 out of every 10 games that you play. Which, full transparency, I'm one of those people. I enjoy pitching with Shohei. I haven't pitched with this one time this year because his walks per nine's low, and so he'd do nothing but throw pitches down the middle. But when we get a good Shohei card, he's going to go in my rotation, and I'm going to pitch with him because he has one of the best pitch mixes in the game, and he'll get outlier on his fastball because he threw a 102-mile-an-hour fastball the other day. Yeah, I think that's really going to sum it up for me. Don't have too many solid picks because you can't figure out what SDS is thinking about anything on who the other collections will be, but I think Judge and Shohei are no-brainers, and it's going to be a big collection. Hopefully they do something similar like they did last year where the Future Stars game gets cards and the Skills Showcase. I don't even know if they're doing that again this year, but that was where Roman Anthony really burst into some people's teams, was with his 97 overall card, I believe he got, for winning the Skills Challenge last year. But that's going to be it for me today. We're going to be filming some videos back to back, so check back in tomorrow for the next video since I won't be streaming over the holiday weekend. Thanks for coming out.